So I'm going to share a story about this building that we bought and kind of a deal deep dive, just going to kind of walk through it and just kind of show that process. There'll be some of like more storytelling parts, there'll be some more technical, and I'll eventually share the numbers with you so you can see why I like this deal. And we're going to do that. And I'm actually going to start with a quote that's one of my favorites. It's by a guy named Dolph DeRuse. He wrote books. Now he's got like YouTube shorts. That's his thing. And it's simply the deal of a lifetime comes once a week. And that's something that I read when I was in middle school, actually. And I was like, yes! And I've kind of locked onto that principle. And so what I'm going to share is a story of, it's probably not just one lifetime. Honestly, it's a few lifetimes stacked on top of each other. It's a really good deal. And so anyways, I just love that quote and something that I continually come back to. All right, so I used to work for HP, and I was in the office one day when I got a call from a random guy, and at the time I thought it was super fun to pick up random phone numbers. I wasn't getting that many marketing calls, so I have a 408 phone number, and so anytime it's that, I know it's a spam call. If it's anything else, I'm like, oh, it's probably real. And so I picked it up, and it was this guy who says, hi, I have a problem, and I heard that you can help me. I was like, sweet, so how can I help you? And he goes, well, I own this 11-unit apartment building in downtown Albany. It is currently 50% vacant, and all of the occupants are registered sex offenders. He goes, unfortunately, because it is only 50% vacant, I am losing money on this thing, and it is becoming kind of this, I feel like I'm becoming a slumlord. He's like, and I'm looking for help. It's like, oh, okay, sweet. So we started talking, and I learned a little bit more about his situation. He lived here in Albany and eventually moved up to Washington. He hired a property manager at that time, and at some point in time, they brought on a tenant that had a 2-year lease that was a sex offender. And this property is kind of I would describe it as like a dormitory style where everything's inside. And all the other tenants found out about it, and all of them moved out. And so he fired that property manager, hired a new one, and that one went, well, kind of we're stuck with this guy for a couple years, let's double down on the strategy. So they struck up a deal with the Department of Corrections in Albany for one of the units to be a halfway house for individuals getting out of jail for a sex offense. And the idea is they go through the rehab process and then they can filter into the other units. That was their entire strategy. And they've been doing it for a couple of years, and it just wasn't working. Not only was the place not full, but it just, it had a really bad vibe, I guess is how I would describe it. And so he had reached a point where everyone was on a month-to-month. He was ready to do something. And he was calling me because at the time I had my property management license. And I was kind of like, I don't know what I was doing. And I don't know, keep my options open. It was one where I had been studying the laws and how to do it. So I went, hey, let me get my license. And I wasn't super annoyed by all of the checking account a reconciliation that you have to do. And I thought the CE classes were super fun. Anyways, so that was why he was calling me. And he goes, I want to get rid of it. I'm just ready to sell it, but I don't think it's at a place where it can be sold because of my situation. And he goes, that's why I'm calling you. We'll fix it up, get it to a point where it can be sold, and then sell it and be done. And I told him, I was like, okay, we can absolutely do that. But if we do that, you're going to hire contractors. You're going to pay me to manage those contractors. It's going to be expensive. And I went, what if you just sold it to me? and he was like, well, maybe, let's talk about it. And so I asked for a week and said, let me figure out what I can do for this. And at the time, he threw out a number of $450,000 for this apartment building, which today you guys are like, are you serious? I can't buy a single family home for that. So that was what I did. Now, I want to back up just a little bit and share how I got this seemingly random phone call. And here's what I'm going to share about networking and tonight is important. And so my wife and I, we initially bought a duplex, lived on one side, rented out the other. And then we bought another duplex, and then we bought a single family home, and we were living in this single family home. And we started to run into a situation where we were like, okay, we're spending all of our money on properties. How do you keep going? How do you keep building? And so we started identifying other investors who own bigger portfolios, and we just took them out to dinner. We're like, tell us your story. How'd you do it? And we were shocked by how many people it was a simple strategy of, well, I had a good job, saved money, and then eventually bought a place. And then kept working my job, saved some more money, bought a place. And honestly, that's the strategy that my wife and I followed for a really long time, and it worked out well. Well, what had happened was one of those couples who we had dinner with was talking about us with another friend, and then that friend was talking to this guy in Washington. And somehow it all looped back to us, where I ended up getting a random phone call from him. And so that was how we found out about it. And again, it was just all purely from taking people out, trying to hear their story and learn from them. So that was like part one, how the opportunity presented itself. Part two, this was, let me think about this. This was quite a few years ago. I was working with a local realtor, Lee Eckroth, to put on an event that was called the Corvallis Pulse. And it was essentially like a TED Talk, but specifically for the real estate market in this area. And so we had put together 8 speakers, and each of them were going to talk for 20 minutes about some area of expertise. So we had a guy talking about economics, we had a guy talking about lending, we had a guy talking about real estate, we had a builder talking about development, we had all sorts of topics. And super cool event. And my job was to help prepare the speakers to do a good job. And so I met with them regularly, we crafted their stories, we worked on the slides, kind of like, what's the big narrative, what are you going to say, you only got 20 minutes, can't go on and on, things like that. Well, one of them happened to be the vice president of commercial lending at Oregon State Credit Union. And he and I, we kicked it off pretty well. At the time, we were struggling to have kids. He and his wife had also gone through that, had ultimately adopted. And so when this opportunity came along, I called him up. I was like, hey, I got this thing, I don't know what to do, whoever that is, grab it, that looks awesome. And so I was like, I don't know what to do, help me figure it out. And he was like, absolutely, let's talk about it. What he didn't tell me at the time, which makes sense because there's privacy stuff involved, is that his bank had the loan on this property, and they were really concerned about what was going on with it. And so they were highly, highly motivated to help us figure out what to do. And which, again, I guess I got lucky, maybe, but again, it was just networking, trying to add value and help other people out. And so that was kind of what led to these two things coalescing. So that is why networking is important. And so then we decided to make an offer. And so I'm just gonna check my notes here. So I made an offer of $400,000 for this place. And the way we structured it was that the bank would provide 3/4 of it, so $300,000. And then the seller would provide the other $100,000, and I would pay the closing costs. Oh yeah, and I didn't want to make any payments for the first 6 months because there was some stuff that had to happen there. And we ultimately landed on, we met in the middle at $425 for the purchase price. And at that point in time, it was like, okay, time to take a tour and actually find out. So at this time, I made the offer, got an agreement, and I hadn't actually walked inside the building yet, hadn't seen anything. All I had done was driven around the outside. Like that picture that I shown you, that's how much I knew about it. And so we got there, but yes.
Can you repeat what you offered?
Yeah, so he initially threw out $450. I came back at $400, and then we settled at $425.
And you said he would bring 100.
Yeah, so the initial idea was he would essentially do 1/4 of the down payment, and then the bank was going to do the other 3/4, and I would do the closing costs. Yeah. So at the time, I actually thought this would be kind of fun. That is super small, that's okay. This was my initial spreadsheet that I was using at the time. I am a, how do I want to call it? I don't hoard physical stuff, but I am a digital hoarder, so I keep all of that. So I still have the original thing here. And yeah, so I was looking through it, running through the spreadsheet. I had all my inputs on one side, I had my annual stuff, and then I all went out by 30 years. I had all my little analysis, I had some variability stuff. And I remember looking at it, and I don't even know if I can read it. Oh, nope, not on that screen, I'm too old for that now. But at the time I was like, oh yeah, this is on paper, I was like, this should be a good deal. It should make sense. Just for the fun of it, I actually, here. I got try to get a little closer so I can actually read it, and that's not going to do me good.
So what year was this?
Let me think about this. This was 8-9 years ago. Yeah, is what we're talking about. Yeah. Just for the fun of it, I threw it into my underwriting tool that I use now because I was kind of curious to see how it would turn out. Yeah, this is a great deal. So you can focus right here. It has an internal rate of return of 20%. The cash on cash is 7%. My equity multiplier is a 5x. like I get excited if I get near 2. And so this was one where I went, oh yeah, this is a really, really good deal. So I was excited, and I wanted to look at it. So then we took a tour, and I'm just going to show you some photos of what this place looked like, and then kind of describe it to you. I think that's how I want to do this. So the very first room unit that we walked into had bed bugs. And you can tell it just had had the white around. It was one of those where you get inside and you're like, I don't want to stay in here very long. I don't know about this. We get into unit 2, and this is what that one looked like. This is a sewer pipe that has been leaking. And so you walk in and it feels like a rainforest. And what you can't see is in the rest of the room over here, there's like black mold everywhere on it. You're like, oh, okay, that's awesome. So that was the second unit. We go into the third unit, and all the walls are yellow. And the windows are so yellow from the nicotine that you can't even see through them. And I made the mistake of like, is this really, oh, nasty. It was really gross. So that was the third unit. We go into the fourth unit, and that was where the Department of Corrections was at. And it kind of just felt like a guy's locker room that had mostly been cleaned, but just kind of had that smell about it. We're like, okay, like I get it. People are living here, but it just smells like a guy's locker room. We went into another unit. This was unit 5, and I got a few pictures of these. My photos will not do it justice because you walk in and you were met with this wonderful aroma of cat urine. And I always joke that cat urine is the smell of money. And like the entire time, I'll admit, like I'm half freaking out at this point because we're halfway through this tour and every single unit is a problem. And I'm just like, okay, all right, we can do this. So that's just kind of like, just kind of dirty, I guess is how I would describe it. Again, this is where, so this bathtub, again, it doesn't fully show up, but it's like every single bathtub was just kind of grody with lines. All the toilets were dirty. Like it's just like well used type of place. This was the carpet that smelled like cat urine. Just kind of walked in and like, oh man, okay, here we go. And so that's the first floor of it. We then go up to the second floor, and I gotta try to describe this to you. So we walk into this kitchen here, and otherwise the unit's pretty nice, but if you look at this countertop, you'll notice that it's like overhanging the cabinets by about that much, to the point where you can't actually open this up and get inside of it. There's about that much space to get into it. I don't know why that was considered acceptable for their repair. But there were 2 kitchens that were like this, where they just slapped on an existing one, because the cabinets are generally shorter because it's an older building. But it was kind of like, wow, what? Okay. There was another one where, because of how they placed the refrigerator, you actually had to like shimmy into the kitchen. You couldn't just get in on your own. For some reason, they decided like the entryway into it was the perfect spot for it. There were some other little minor things all over the place like this, where you're just like, all right, clearly people have been using it. This, even though it has grounding, is not grounded. Very little of the place was actually grounded. And so little issues like that we discovered. The hallway that you go into, this is like you're standing on the stairs, you're looking down the hallway, and it just was, I don't know, just kind of used, worn. Here's another angle from it, maybe. Looking down below. And what you can't see is this little sign right here. It says essentially no minors are allowed inside the building all by themselves. Really, yeah. And then there's another inviting sign here that says no dogs allowed in building. So just, again, that was kind of the vibe of this building. There were a couple other little things. Like there were some broken windows where it looks like a baseball or a rock is my guess. So things like that. Interestingly, we replaced this window, and this is the thing that triggered people in the city to call and complain that we were messing with something in the historic district. The one thing it had going for it was our building was here, and the historic district line was right here. And so the house next to it, you couldn't mess with, but ours, we could. But yeah, when we replaced that triggered people complaining. It was a thing. But it was really easy because the city was like, yeah, don't worry about it. There was, this is actually super cool. There was a huge basement, and I think I have a semi-picture of it because 10 years ago my phone wasn't that good of a camera. But in this basement, it all has these sloped walls because at the time there was this massive furnace that was fed with sawdust. And so there's actually like a manhole where they would put the sawdust down, it would then hang in there, and then they would, I guess, feed it into it somehow. And so it had this really old chimney on the roof. On the roof of it. Here's kind of what the hallway looked like on the second floor. So all of the panels are on the outside, and there's just like gray drab carpet. It just looks like an old building. Here's a really bad picture of down inside this the basement. The basement had to have been like, it's like 15 feet tall. It's crazy. It's really big, really cool, completely unfinished. And the stairs going down to it are super rickety, and there's a big you have to watch your head because if you're not careful, you're gonna hit your head on it, which I have tested and it does hurt. And sorry, what? I know the answer to this. 1930, and it's like March 6th because in the concrete on the basement, someone etched it in. I was like, yeah, super cool. So it's been around for a little while. So, the other thing is when we walked right into the hallway, I was immediately met with the smell of smoke because these guys smoked. Yeah. So I called the seller right after the tour and said, yeah, about that $400,000 offer, that's my offer. And and I described some of the stuff that we had seen, and he goes, yeah, I get it, write it up. And so we ended up getting it under contract for $400,000. So one of the things that we did is we put together a business plan. Now, I don't know 100% how much influence this had on the process, but we do know when I was talking with that VP guy, he was like, oh, this is great, super helpful. I mean, they have their own forms that you have to fill out, but we put together this 5-page PDF, and I'm just gonna share it with you what it was. So essentially, we were like, okay, there's 11 units, there's 6 studios, 5 single bedrooms, and we're gonna rent them out for $490 and $550. We're offering $400, and we offered some property details, gave some high-level remarks, had a little map because why not? Because I can't look it up, I don't know. And then just some features. And so it was just that was kind of our cover. Here's what we're doing. And then we had another page where we went into details about okay, we're going to terminate the leases. We're going to do, I call it some minor rehab, is how I labeled it. And then we talked about our rent rates. I had some real simple proof of why I thought those were reasonable rates, how we're going to advertise it, which we ended up not doing any of that at all. I'll share more about why we didn't have to. We got done with this project and we filled up everything. I think it took a week and a half for us to do. It helps when you get a front page news article talking about how awesome it is that you're fixing up a building. And so we just got calls about it. And then we talked about how we're going to manage it and ongoing maintenance stuff. And we just kind of laid it out. Here's our business plan for doing it. We then tried to build our own credibility. We're like, hey, we have an LLC, we have our property management license, we own a couple other duplexes, and then we talked about all of our advisors, our attorney, our real estate person, our accountant, our insurance guy. I'm part of, it's the new name now, but it's the Rental Housing Alliance in Oregon. It's the Portland one. I don't know. It's similar to yours, but for whatever reason, I think what happened was one of the early properties, I saw that form, and I went, oh cool, I'll just call them. So that's how I ended up with them. And then I actually wrote down, I one time ran a very what do we call this? It's the grandfather club to this. So there was a club before this one. And so I actually wrote that down too. Oh yeah, I'm a member of that club. So that was something if you're regularly showing up, write that down. Again, just trying to build our credibility. We had a team around us to help us actually pull this off. So that the underwriter somehow would go, yeah, it totally makes sense. The other thing that we did was we included some financial estimates in them along with our analysis. It was really simple, not very complicated. And then the last thing that we did was we provided our personal financial summary just so they could see where we're coming from. Again, they have all their own forms. We know we had to fill all that out. But I just want to put it all together in a simple, easy to read, well displayed packet so they could go oh, okay, yeah, this guy, I was trying to present ourselves as professional. Right, that was the whole name of the game, so that they'd say, yes, we'll give you the loan. And they did, which was nice. So we, one other little thing that happened in all of this was the plan was for me to quit my job. because we were living in this podunk single-family home. We joked that we bought a fixer-upper and then we just didn't fix her up. And so our monthly payments were $598 for PITI, and it was a 15-year mortgage. It was awesome. And it was enough where this was going to cover it and I could quit my job. Very early on in the rehab process, we found out that my wife was pregnant. And so she quit her job and I had to keep working. I was like, man, but it's all good. It worked out. And so we had some current tenants that we had to deal with. And when we were buying it, we were a little bit concerned about the appraisal because we wanted to make sure that it looked good. So we actually got the keys ahead of time to get in everywhere because the apartment manager at the time was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care. And so we had it, and we actually, the two of us ran around and we cleaned everything, made it look as nice as we could for the appraiser, who ended up like walking into the hallway and went, all right, cool, looks good. And I was done. Oh man, we spent all that time. You sure you don't want to check out this bathroom? Like I spent hours on this tub, but no, it didn't matter. Paid off later, but it's okay. So in that time, like the tenants had seen us running around and we're like, okay, something's up, what's going on? And we were telling them, oh yeah, kind of like the plan is we're gonna buy it, we're gonna rehab it, make it better. Interestingly, when we went and talked to the Department of Corrections later on, they're like, so you're turning this into a rehab center? Like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, all right, I can see how we get there. And so here's what we did. And this, at the time, the strategy worked really, really well. We handed every single tenant a 60 or 30-day notice. Again, I get rules are a little bit different now because they'd all been living there for a while, but we gave them their notice, and this was on the 10th of the month. And so what we told them was, look, we're gonna go through, we're gonna rehab this, we're gonna change everything. And so we are going to give you your deposit back no matter what. And I had an envelope of cash with me, and I pulled out, it was like $400, $400 to $500 was the deposit. So I went, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will get this no matter what when you move out. Because I don't care, we're gonna go through and redo everything. I went, but it's the 10th of the month, you have either 30 or 60 days. If you are able to move out by the end of the month, I will refund you this month's rent as well, which again was like $400 or $500. And I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would hold in front of them. If you move out by the end of the month, I will give you this. Man, those eyes, they got big like saucers, right? They're like, oh, really? And so that was what we did. Oh yeah, and then we said, okay, we did 2 other things for you. Second thing is we have called every single landlord in the area. Here are the ones who have said they will rent to a sex offender. Here's their contact information. Reach out to them, talk to them. And we also wrote a letter that simply explained they did nothing wrong. We were moving in, redoing it. They're fine people as far as we know. So they could also hand that letter to them and say, yeah, I know I got notice, but it's not related to me. And so we gave them all of that. And it was, that was an incredibly hard day for us. We got done, and honestly, we went into our cars and we just kind of cried for a bit. We're like, oh man, like, okay, that was hard. Like, we had one guy in particular, he was in unit 11, and you could just see how, like, he was just upset, right? Like, this is his home, this is where he lives, and we were kicking him out. We're just like, oh man, okay, all right. Interestingly, we ran into him like 6 months later because he was walking around downtown with his dog. And he came up to us and said, hey, I want to just tell you, kicking me out was the best thing you could have ever done. It forced me to reconnect with my family. I am now living with them. I'm now involved in my granddaughter's life. He goes, it has been amazing. Thank you. And I know not everyone's story is that way, but at least for that one, it was like, okay, like, it turned out okay. It's all right. And part of it, again, was just like, got him out of that community, I think. Everybody moved out within that month, except for one set of tenants. They were hoarders, and they weren't like quite firing on all cylinders. Like, we would talk to them, and it was very weird. They actually were like, oh, we want to apply to live at the new place. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess everyone is allowed to apply. Here's the application. And they filled it out, and like they were like, yeah. And it was this guy and this girl. Who, by the way, were very emphatic. They're not dating. They're just living together. Because I made the mistake once of like referring to her as his girlfriend. She's like, no, I'm not his girlfriend. We just live here. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And like we try to go through this whole like, we ultimately were like, well, we're gonna deny you because you're a sex offender. And she was like, well, I'm not. I'm like, oh, all right, but you're living with him. She goes, well, yeah. Okay. And like, I mean, it was a really strange conversation. They ended up moving out in 61 days, which we're like, whatever. Like, we had a few other units to work on. It wasn't the end of the world. And they still got their deposit back. And I was totally happy to give it to them. And they just didn't get their rent back, which was fine. That was how we dealt with the current tenants. It was kind of fun. I went and I talked to the Department of Corrections, right? And I went, so I normally flash a bunch of cash in front of you, but I don't think that's going to work in this situation. And she was like, no, I totally get it. She went, but here was the deal. She says, if we have all this furniture in it, she goes, if we take the furniture back, she goes, this is a paperwork nightmare on my behalf, because then we have to catalog everything, we then have to store it, we have to do all sorts of stuff. She goes, but if it can stay out in the field until we identify the next place, that is really easy. So we struck an agreement where I rented out a storage facility, put all of her stuff in it, charged her back for all of that for the 6-7 months that it took them to find a new place, and then they came and got all their stuff and moved on. And like, that was how we came to an agreement on that one. So for a while, I had a storage facility unit with just all their stuff in it. And, so that was how we handled that situation. And so we had all the tenants moved out. Interestingly, I had insurance on the property, and like when you have a larger commercial building, they bring someone by to kind of check it out, make sure it's good. And by the time they got out there, the place was vacant, and she was like, we don't insure vacant buildings. And I went, you know what? So this was a learning on my behalf, and she went, yep, we're canceling this like yesterday. And so I had a bit of a scramble there to try to find, essentially I found a guy up in Salem who offers like construction insurance. And I ended up spending more for the insurance for like the 2 months that we, like before we actually had it full, than I did like the entire year for the other one. It was very expensive. But one of the things that did happen was I got a call from one of the, just another agent, and she said, hey, we've got this guy, he's the new CEO of the Democrat Herald, and he starts like this week, but his family still lives in Southern Oregon. He's just looking for a place to crash for a while until they identify a new house and they're able to move up. And so I talked to him and I was like, so we're doing like a construction thing, like we can leave a unit alone and then eventually we'll jump you into one that's been fixed up. And I was like, honestly, I don't really care, just the fact that you're here is nice. $200 a month, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, done. And that is why we ended up getting a front page news article when this place was done. Because I'm pretty certain he's like, hey, you should go check out this story and hear what they're doing. So that was how that kind of came about, which again I think falls into like, I was trying to do networking, trying to help out, and for me I'm like, man, this is great. I have someone who I can actually trust here who's at night. But it'd be super funny because like early in the morning, here'd be this guy in this really nice suit like walking out of this garbage building. All right, whatever. He was totally cool with it. It worked well. So then we were able to get into the rehab. All right, you ready for my budget? It's gonna blow your mind. I spent $50,000 on this rehab. Oh, I know. And so here was the plan. I was working for HP, still full time, and so I had a card table, and the idea was I'm gonna set up that card table, I'm gonna have my laptop, I got Wi-Fi to the building, and I was gonna work there. And then what I did was I hired 2 unskilled guys from All Star Labor and said, hey guys, you're gonna work for me, I'm gonna pay you minimum wage, but here's the deal. I said, I'll train you how to do everything. So we would meet at 7 in the morning, and I would walk them through, all right, here's what we're doing today, here's your projects, here's what it is. And they would go do it. I would check in with them around lunchtime or like in between meetings, and then they would continue working in the afternoon. And then in the evening, they would go home. And then what I would do is I would clean the place. I would then prep all the materials and the tools for the next day's project, and I did whatever finishing skilled work was required. Because I was like, you know what, you guys don't have to learn about it, it's all good. And this was the plan. So I worked pretty much every single night and weekend for the 6 months that it took us to do this project. And that was part of what I traded, right? I traded time for the cost of it. And there were a couple projects where like, yeah, I hired an electrician and a plumber to help me because like had to. And so that was the process that we did. And oh yeah, the other thing that I did for them was, again, they were unskilled, and it turned out that both of them were also former felons. And so what I told them was, I went, treat this like an internship. This project's, it's only gonna last 6 months. I can't hire you full time, so you can't expect that. But what I will do is I will write you a letter of recommendation that talks about, here are all the skills that you learned in your experience. Take that to your future employer. And so I went, I get it. I'm not paying you a lot, but that's not why you're in this. You're in this to get the skill to get the next job. And they totally bought into that. And both of them actually got full-time jobs in the construction industry afterwards. And yeah, I'll take credit for giving them that experience. And so that was what we did. Yeah, so I want to share some photos of what we did for the rehab. So this was that kitchen that had the crazy overlap on the countertop. And so we just tore that out and took a look at it, and we're like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We then pulled up all of the carpet everywhere. This was that place that had the cat smell, and we put down whatever that super caustic, like paint for a while and then get out of the room stuff is. Even if you have I bought a really nice respirator so that he could paint it, and we just painted everything. Ceilings, walls, the floor. That was how we solved that particular problem. Oh, we also sprayed everything with, I think it was a vinegar thing or something, ammonia, I can't remember. But anyways, we did what we did. You can't smell it now. It's awesome. It's great. Some of these rooms have really, really, really funky layouts. I actually think that it was originally a commercial property, just based on some things that I've seen inside. And so you had this one where you have a hallway with a bathroom right off of it, then you have this other room, and then there's through this door is another room, and then through another door is the kitchen. So it's like a horseshoe thing. There isn't a living room by any normal definition. And so we did some things like this where we put in a 3/4 wall and created essentially a private bedroom place so someone could fit in a king-size bed here if they wanted to, making the other room the living room, and then which was attached to the kitchen. So we did little tiny modifications like that just to make them more livable. There are a few others, like inside bathrooms, there were no outlets, and so I happened to have an electrician friend, and I just offered to help him do the work, and so he got the permits, and we pulled everything and put in some GFCI outlets in all the bathrooms to make that work. For that place in the hallway, we tore it all out, redid all of those sections, made it look nice. This was the mess that we created for that. Oh yeah, here's my setup. This was my life for 6 months. Just working on it's not an ergonomic chair. That's not how I would describe it. And I would just jump around different rooms wherever they weren't working. That's where I would go, and that was how we set that up. But yeah, that was I think we still have that table somewhere. But that was my life for a while. Again, this is a picture. Just one of the guys. We're just cutting trim, making it all work. This was the place with all of the mold that was in it. And so we did a ton of scrubbing, and in a lot of places we just tore it out, so we just got to start all over. It's a concrete building, and so on all the outside walls, that's what you're met with the second you start to get into it. You're like, okay, I gotta figure that out. Another interesting thing about this property was that there were only 2 water heaters for the 11 units, and one of them was broken. And so there was 1 water heater, which again, it was only half vacant or half occupied, so I think it was okay. And so we went through, and I have a picture that didn't turn out well, but what we ended up doing was I did a bunch of research and figured out how to put 4 water heaters in parallel, so that instead of it being in line, by doing it in parallel, I could increase the amount of water pressure, because this was all running off of, it was like a 1/2-inch line at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so bad. And so we figured out how to extend it into a 3/4-inch line, and by running them all in parallel, we just increased the pressure that was going on. And I remember I was talking with my plumber, and at the time he was like, I don't think you can do that. I was like, no, check it out. And I got all the research, showed him how to work it, said the trick is everything has to be exactly the same length. If it's not the same length, that's where you get yourself into trouble. And so that was ultimately how we did it. We just used flex pipe, then we just said, yeah, it's all going to be exactly the same. And it works really well now, which is cool. We had to put in this was another, it had to be inspected, and so we had to put in a wall to make sure that everything was stable. And I was like, I knew we did it right, but it was kind of my first time having an inspector come and check on the work. And so I was a little bit nervous, and the guy was super nice. We talked about it. We walked down the stairs, and he was like, oh man, this place is super cool. Awesome. All right, let's go. And he didn't get within 20 feet of this. How do you, whatever. So I think I sweated that didn't have to. Other stuff that we did was I got into this allure flooring stuff, which is water resistant, and so we put that in a lot of places, like in the kitchens and the hallways, things like that. Here's another one. Here's how I save money. Ready for this? I bought the cheap blinds that were too big, and then I bought this guy. Yeah, you're laughing. And I modified all the blinds by hand to make them fit the windows. Yeah, because I was doing the math, and it was like half the cost to do it that way. And there's like 100 windows in this building.
Did you do vertical blinds?
Sorry, what?
Did you do vertical blinds?
Yeah. No, not vertical. We just like the normal Venetian blind stuff, right? They go up and down.
They just go up and down
Yeah.
and like turn.
Yeah, that's what we did. And that took a little while to do. That was fun, just kind of like waste time while you're cutting the project. But it's got this little tool is the measuring thing, so you don't have to actually line it out. You just figure out what it is, and then you just butt up against, and you just cut. Yeah, we did a lot of that. Those are some ways that I could say money made it work. So those are like in progress. Here's how it's going. So now I'm going to show you some here's how it looked at the end. And so this is that same kitchen. So you can see we got in some new cabinets. It's like a really simple setup, nothing fancy, but all the drawers open and you can access them. It's great. We cleaned all the bathrooms so they all looked nice. One of the things that we do when tenants move in is we actually give them some soap, we give them a new toilet paper, we give them some rolls so that they can, while they're moving in, they can still use the facilities and wash their hands and do stuff like that. Here's another, so this is just a place that we cleaned and made look nice. These are like what the original cabinets and countertops were. And so we didn't go crazy, right? I didn't rip all of this out. We just cleaned it up, made it look nice. Here's what our hallway looks like now. And so we got rid of the carpet, we put in all that flooring. We ultimately for the hallways did like this brown trim. I felt that it just helped give it definition. By the way, this was a mistake. I wish I'd never done this. This is a drop box for people putting in their checks. I still have one tenant who chooses to do it, and it kills me. I tried to offer a discount to pay online. She's like, no, I got a box right here. Awesome. Everyone else pays online, but not her. It's super annoying. So here's I'm doing the comparison slides, right? So this is the same hallway. So this is what it looked like beforehand, what it looked like afterwards. Like we got actually put in like nice light or bright lights for everything instead of the yellow dungeony look to it. And then just for the comparison, here was the before and after for that kitchen. Again, you can just kind of see that crazy overhang there. Here's the system that we put in, so you can see all the flexi pipes just to make it all work. And I'm in the middle of the project. We haven't put together that one. And so so that was our new water heater setup. And then here are my guys that I spent a lot of time with. And they did a great job. They worked really hard. I was super pleased. That was a great experience for me. And I know that it can be touch and go on that experience. We did other stuff. It was like every Friday. So we're right next to the fire station and what was it? It used to be Sedici's. And so every Friday we get pizza lunch and I just buy it for them. And we just talk about life. This was a year, hardcore Patriots fan, hardcore Seahawks fan, and that was the year they both went to the Super Bowl. It was tense for a little while there, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. And then another thing was I ended up naming it the Lion Apartments because I read somewhere like if you had a name, you get to charge a little bit more rent. It sounds cool. And I actually had one of the guys who was I'm an artist, and so he drew this up, and then we took it to the printer, and they made it. So that's actually his design. So I was like, that's super cool. And as you can see, the outside looks a little bit different than the door does at this point. And that was because when we finished the project, I had been talking with the fire department right next door, and they were getting ready to do their big new project. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna paint this building if they're gonna do all their construction stuff. And at the time, there was this big building that was like that far away from ours, and they were gonna temporarily use it while they redid the fire station, and then eventually they were just going to bulldoze that down. And so we just sat on it, staying ugly, for that entire project. And then eventually we painted the outside, and so that looks nice, I think. So that was our rehab project. Okay, I got some summary information here. So the year, I wrote it down here, was 2014. So I guess that would be almost 10 years from now. And so that's what we bought it for. And my total capital invested was $53,084. And so that included the rehab and the closing costs. So not a lot, which was great. And again, and that doesn't include my sweat equity either. And I fully recognize that I guess my time is valuable, but I was able to do it in parallel with HP, and it was fine. I wasn't doing anything else. And we ended up refinancing this thing in, I think it was 2018, something like that, because that was how long it took the fire station to do their stuff. And so we refinanced it at a value of $650,000 at that time. And so that gave me enough money to not only pay off both loans that I had on it and to reimburse myself for all the rehab expenses, but I left enough money left over that I went and bought a 5-unit place in Sweet Home. And that was another story, got it by sending out letters, that kind of thing. So it turned out pretty good. It turns out like this is essentially the burst strategy, right? Like I bought the place, I used other funding in order to pull it off, fixed it up, re-rented it out, refinanced, and then went and repeated it at another property. It wasn't what I was planning to do, it just kind of worked out this way, but that's essentially what this strategy was. And so let's see, how do I want to do this? So I've got my my internal rate of return, so I still own it, haven't sold it yet. Currently, my internal rate of return on this is 44%. It's been awesome. My average annual return is 141%. Again, it's been pretty good. And then my average, I guess, cash on cash has been 24% on this thing. Because as you can imagine, when I first underwrote it, the rents were low and they've just been like slowly creeping up over time. I am now, for every single unit, double what I initially thought it was going to be, which is nice. And so this is something that I would definitely call a deal of a lifetime. It worked out pretty well for us. And I was trying to think through like, okay, what do I need to do next with this thing? And if I'm honest, what I should probably do is sell it and move on to another value-add project. But it's just got a soft spot in my heart. I am still currently actively managing this, but the plan is by the end of the year, I'll have a property manager taking it over, where I've just started that process, mostly because you've been scaring me with all these laws. I don't want to keep track of this anymore.
He's good at that.
And so she has taken over a few properties. She's going to take over one the first half of the year, and then she'll take over this one the second half of the year. And then I got another one that I'll have to figure out. But yeah, maybe once I'm no longer actively managing it, I'll be a little bit more willing to let go of it. But for now, it's been a great property. And so anyways, that's my story. That's the deal. And got some questions. You were quick on the draw. Go for it.
So if you're willing to share it, what was your cash flow before you refinanced, and what was it after you refinanced?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know that off the top of my head. I know so this actually, interestingly, so this is a property that 5 years ago we refinanced. And when you do a commercial loan, you get a fixed rate for 5 years, and then they reset to whatever the current rate is. And so back in November, I got to experience the super fun part. So it was at 4.5%, and now it is at 7.58%. So my cash flow is a little less now. It's like $900 less than it was at the time, which is a bummer. But whatever, that's the game we play. It dropped a little bit, but I mean, I more than made up for it with the other property that I invested in. And so my net overall was more. But I don't actually know them off the top of my head.
Why do you want to sell it? I mean, that seems like that's something that you have 25 years left on it, and you can just take home $10,000 a month for the rest of your life or more as rent.
Yeah, part of the issue with this one is now I am beholden to market appreciation and market rent rates. I can't force any sort of appreciation or value into it. And so by taking the profits that I have on this today, and maybe it would make sense just to refinance it and use that cash to buy something else, though it would be smaller. But by selling it, I can enroll it into a new project that maybe not be exactly like this, but has an opportunity for further growth. So those average annual returns and IRRs, they're just going to slowly creep down over time. And so by chasing after something else, I can just
So you would
do
do
the
like a
faster.
1031, so maybe try and do a bigger property and increase that cash flow more?
Yep, yeah, that'd be kind of the plan with it. Because I could go get something bigger. Yes.
How much of the infrastructure did you have to replace? Like the roof, windows, pipes, wiring?
Very little of it. The bones were good on this. The roof was actually one of the things that he had done the previous year, so it was in great shape. There were a couple windows that had problems. Interestingly, let's see, I don't think, some of these are actually wooden windows, you can't tell. I found the one of the 3 guys apparently in Oregon who works on wood windows, and he came and helped me figure out like how to fix the wooden ones. So there's a few of those. There was a couple electrical stuff, and again, I had a friend who he was like essentially gave it to me at cost as long as I hung out with him while he did it, and which I was happy to do because he's a super fun guy. And the plumbing, except for the water heater, everything was fine there.
And that one, Stuart Lee.
Yes, yeah, that is true. Yeah, we had to get that fixed. That one was, we tackled that one first because I was like, I don't know how to do this, and so we got after that one. But yeah, so it wasn't a lot from an infrastructure standpoint. Like I said, the bones were pretty good because it's a concrete building. I was freezing cold in the morning, but once it warmed up, it was fine. And as a result, like the siding was fine.
Was there any asbestos removal or?
No, there was no testing of it either.
Okay. No, there wasn't any removal, or no, there's
Let's see, there was only one, there were only a couple places where we actually replaced the drywall, and there was only one place where it had tile on the floor that we got rid of. That probably was. We just weren't masterful doing it. But everything else, it was like we just pulled it up and it was wood everywhere and it was carpet, and so it wasn't a huge concern. I just take it back. I did test a few places. I got one of those at-home test kits, and we did a few spots, and it all came back negative. And so I went, all right, we just kind of rolled with it. I do tell tenants though that I'm like, it is an older building. And for the ones who have kids, I'm like, I wouldn't let them suck on walls and they just paint chip stuff because I don't know.
Where's parking? Is there a lot?
It's right here. It's right here. Yeah, no, it's street parking is what it is.
It's downtown though, so it's walkable.
Yes, yeah, and when they install these new lights, it's all pretty well lit, and so I haven't had a big complaint. Interestingly, there's no recycling, there's only a dumpster, and because the city reluctantly was like, fine, I guess you have to have some sort of way to get rid of your garbage, but they didn't like it, so we had this dumpster, and we had to get a lock on it because when I bought it, it was a community dumpster. They would empty it on Tuesday, and then by Tuesday night it was full. It's like, oh my gosh, and yeah, it was actually pretty funny. I would watch people, when we first put the lock on, they would walk up with their stuff, and they get all upset and angry and walk off. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
How much construction experience did you have before this?
Okay.
And then second question is, if you, maybe you wanted to do something differently, what would you do differently on this project?
So we had owned a duplex, and we had fixed up both sides. We had bought another duplex, and honestly, we inherited tenants, and I hadn't been inside of it. I mean, I'd been inside, but I hadn't done anything inside of it. And then for that single family home, again, we didn't fix it up. And so I had some limited experience. Now my dad, he did underground construction. And so I had been a little bit exposed to that. And he was kind of a handyman type of guy. He lives in California, and so he came up and he saw it during the purchase process, and that was all that he ever saw of it. So there were even units that he never walked inside of. I'm trying to think if FaceTime was a thing back then. I think it had just started. I don't remember. And so anyways, I had some. YouTube is my best friend, and so I would watch a lot of videos. I would call my dad up and be like, "Hey, we got this thing for the sewer pipe." I was like, "I don't know what to do with this. What's the process?" And he's like, "Okay, well you got to prop it up, and you got to get it, and he kind of walked me through how to do that. But yeah, it was YouTube. It turns out, for whatever reason, I'm fantastic at texturing drywall. I don't know, something about the way that I do it. It just looks good.
You do it by hand?
No, I have a gun,
Oh.
and it's just I don't know, something about it. I'm good at it. That's maybe that could be a skill of mine if I ever need to get another job. And so that was how I would do it. So I would watch videos. Okay, here's how to do this thing, and just kind of figure it out.
So you get a contractor's license?
No. Which, since I was the owner of it, and I checked this, they're like, no, you don't have to. And we weren't doing anything that was crazy, infrastructure, no new framing. I will say, when we first got started on the project, I very quickly got overwhelmed by everything, because all the numbers were 11 times what I had seen in the past. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how much carpet are we getting? We're getting 10,000 square feet of carpet. Are you kidding me? We're buying how many appliances? We're doing how much paint? And that was overwhelming to me. And the advice that my dad gave, he goes, I get it. He goes, just focus on one unit. Just do that. And then he's like, rehab that one, focus on the numbers for that one, and then when you're ready, move on to the next one. And that was super helpful for me to just kind of focus and go, okay, that's what it was. And then once I did that, for whatever reason, like it clicked, and I was able to go like, yeah, I get it. We can do this for all 10 now. I'm just doing the same thing, 11 times. And but that, I will admit, like there was probably like a 2-week time period there where I was like, wow, this is super overwhelming. This is a huge project. And then you get over it, you just kind of go, all right, I'm gonna start here, and I'll pull up carpet and just keep rolling. But yeah, that was YouTube. And again, like this wasn't a complicated project. We were replacing flooring, we were repainting, we did a couple sets of cabinets, and they were really straightforward, just straight runs. There was just a few places where we were replacing drywall, and I wasn't intimidating to me at the time. Still not, I guess, but so it wasn't super, super complicated, which I think helped. Yeah, I think in some ways, like you guys rehabbing your place was a more complicated project than what we did here. But yeah.
What would you do differently?
Oh yeah, what would I do differently? What would I do differently? I don't know, man. It turned out pretty well. There's definitely that trade-off between like the amount of money I spent and the time we took to do it. And I might spend more time saying, okay, if I went in and hired a crew, how fast could they turn this thing so that I can maybe get it rented out sooner and collect more rent? And that might have been like worth doing the math to figure out. At the time I didn't care. I was like just trying to save money, and I had a flexible enough job where I knew I could get away with it. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. So I would get done with what I was doing in the evening time, and then I would drive to Home Depot, buy whatever materials we needed the next day, and so that was my routine for a long time. I was okay with it. But that's probably something I would look into, like what was that mix of hiring professionals versus unskilled, managing it myself.
Not cutting the blinds.
Not cutting blinds.
So were you renting out each unit as you finished it?
No, because we ended up just taking when we started painting, we painted everything. When we were replacing everything, we did everything. So we ended up just doing it all at once. And so each unit became available. I mean, it was like within a week of each other. So that part was super, for example, the carpeting, that was all done in one day. And which was one of our final steps. And it was like, okay, it's done now. And so then when we put it out, and then it was, again, that the guy at the DH, the article came out, it was 2 weeks before we were done with this, so the timing out was perfectly. And we just phone calls coming in. And so my wife, that was something she goes, I can do that. So she screened everybody and had all the initial conversations. And so it just felt super fast. And so, yeah, that's why, from that time of, okay, now we're done, to now it's full, was just a week and a half. It was crazy fast. And it felt weird to be like, whoa, I'm done. I get to hang out at home in the evening. This is nuts. And it was nice. And by the way, our house at the time was about a mile away from here. That was also really convenient. We just literally you just drive down the road and we were there. So that was super nice. And which made it so my wife, she'd come over, she'd hang out, she'd bring dinner, that kind of stuff. I had a lot of hasty freeze. I don't want to admit how much I've had of it. The ladies got to know me type thing. I had a lot of hasty freeze. But because I run into problems where ceviches, they must have some sort of thing that pumps out smell in the afternoon. Called ovens, I guess. But man, it would be hard at 3 o'clock. I'd be like, dude, that's starting to smell good. And I wasn't gonna buy pizza, but I might get a fries and shake. But yeah. So anyways, that was kind of our. I don't know if I would change much more about it because it turned out pretty well.
Your wife was newly pregnant at that time. Was she resentful at all that you spent all of your time at the building, or was she
no,
the goals?
She knew she had signed up for it, I guess. Let's see, I was in middle school, and that was when I kind of discovered this real estate thing, and my mom and I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad in 97, and then when he came out with Cash Flow Quadrant in 98, we read that book together. So I was kind of this is what I'm doing with my life. And so when we started dating, I was instantly oh, by the way, I'm going to invest in real estate. And she's like, oh, okay, tell me more. And so by the time this came along, again, we had already bought the duplex. We had a couple of them. So she knew kind of what was going on. I don't think either one of us fully realized the scope of the project that we had bitten off. But no, she was cool with it. She was going through morning sickness too. So she was like, dude, just leave me alone, whatever, do your thing. And so I think that helped. And it was all finished No, she actually had her kid before we finished the project because I have pictures of my little tiny daughter just sitting on the floor while we were finishing this up. So yeah, that was our, but she knew it, she was okay with it. And she knew she wasn't going back to work as a result of this project, so I think that played into it as well. It's like, yeah, like sacrifice now, but this is gonna have a huge impact on our family going forward. So yeah. So we got-
What was the timeline from the time you bought till you rented?
it was 6 months. Yeah, almost exactly. Maybe like 5.5, somewhere there. Yeah, so we, and from the time that I got that phone call until we closed, that honestly was probably another month, I think is what it was. Or, well, since we, like from the time I got the phone call to when it was like officially under contract, that was like a 3-week time period there. And then it was another, however long it was, month and a half to close. And then we had the keys, so like I said, we half started ahead of time once we knew what was going on. But yeah, there you go. And yes.
Did you do anything with the basement? Because you said it was like pretty tall ceilings down there.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Still unfinished, right?
Yeah, still unfinished. Part of it was the problem with the staircase. It wasn't easily to get accessible, and when I talked to the city briefly about it, they're like, yeah, if you're gonna make that kind of modification, it's gotta be ADA compliant. And I went, oh, really? And so that was kind of, I just kind of stopped at that point. Because I had an idea, there's a really old rickety laundry room in like the back corner. I was like, oh man, what if we brought that out to near the stairs, create a laundry area? Because there's no laundry here either. And I was like, we could do something like that, that'd be super helpful. And they're like, yeah, but if you're gonna allow public access, it's this thing. Oh man. So now I'm gonna like pitch it as, for the future person, it's got upside potential, do something. Yeah, but no, I haven't touched it. And part of it was I made enough money on it where I was okay with not having to get crazy on that particular project. But yeah. There you go. That's what I got to share.